Today, I want to take you back to a moment in American history that exposes something we still don't want to admit about ourselves. And what I mean by that is blacks. A moment that shows plain as day that the hunger for power isn't a white thing or a black thing. It's a human thing. And we're going to talk about Liberia. So buckle up because I believe this is going to be a good one.
As we close out Black History Month, we turn now to a remarkable but often overlooked chapter of U.S. history, one that connects the United States to the West African nation of Liberia, founded more than 2 centuries ago by freed African Americans. ABC's Inez de Lucatera takes us on a journey through history to see how their legacy and their search for freedom continues to shape a country known as the Land of Liberty.
You'd be forgiven for thinking this is somewhere in America. From the street signs to the yellow school buses and monuments like this Masonic temple, even a flag that looks very familiar. But we're a long way from the U.S. This is Liberia, a small nation on the western coast of Africa, and its story is intrinsically tied to America's. It's a little-known chapter in U.S. history. In the 1800s, a group of white Americans created what was known as the American Colonization Society. Its aim was to repatriate formerly enslaved Americans to Africa, even though many had been in the U.S. for generations. Liberian historian Dr. C. Patrick Burroughs.
They aimed to form a colony in Africa and to have free blacks who chose to leave and go to Liberia. They were joined by people who were politicians and who thought that the repatriation of blacks to Africa was important to preserve stability in the U.S. That as long as free blacks were here, they would influence those who were enslaved, and those who were enslaved might rebel.
The ACS set about buying land in Africa and chose to call it Liberia. In other words, the land of the free. Its capital, Monrovia, was named after U.S. President James Monroe. Among those who would make the journey was William D. Coleman, a young boy who'd grown up on the Wardlaw plantation in Fayette County, Kentucky. James Wardlaw's will shows that upon his death, he wanted all enslaved people on his plantation to be liberated on the condition they emigrate to Liberia. Wardlaw adding, "But such of my slaves as decline going to Liberia shall be sold as slaves." Dr. Burroughs says records show that in 1853, William, his mother Ellen, and an uncle boarded a ship in Baltimore and set sail for Liberia.
Life was rough because you're coming into a place that's new, certainly not as rough as it would have been on a plantation, and now you're working for yourself.
Eventually, the Colemans landed here in what was dubbed Kentucky in Africa, where relics of the past still stand to this day, and where we met up with some of Coleman's direct descendants.
From the time they came in, they started patterning things after the United States. The flag, the everything.
It's estimated about 15,000 freed black Americans resettled in Liberia. They set about building a country based on what they knew, overcoming some challenges from the local population. In the Liberian jungle, one can still find buildings that look almost identical to those in the American South.
These are the buildings that people who came from the U.S. had built. The structures on, say, Jefferson's plantation or Madison's plantation were not built by Jefferson himself. He might have designed them, but the actual enslaved people were the ones who built them. So they had those skills.
At this Baptist church in 1847, Liberians even signed their own Declaration of Independence.
It was a land of freedom, and it still is, regardless of what the issues are. Liberia is still a land of freedom. Anyone can come and settle in Liberia, true land of liberty.
And William D. Coleman, born enslaved on an American plantation, would eventually grow up to become the nation's 13th president. But the Colemans' search for freedom wouldn't end there. Decades later, during the brutal Liberian Civil War, a portion of the family chose to flee the violence by heading back to America. Outside of Washington, D.C., we meet 93-year-old Genevieve Coleman Garnett and her son James.
When you get married, right?
19 years old.
19 years old. Okay, and this was in 1951. I don't think anybody ever planned to come back, you know. But when the coup took place, you know, thank God we had a place of refuge that we could come back to, you know, and settle again and try to start all over, you know. But yeah, I mean, America and Liberia have always had a very close relationship. It's a full cycle, right?
Every year now, the Colemans hold a big family reunion. What began in 1998 as a small core gathering of Colemans has now blossomed into a massive event with as many as 300 American and Liberian Colemans attending.
We hope that they don't get mixed up and don't know who they are. We wanted them to know that who they were and where they came from.
A chance to reflect on their shared legacy and give back. The descendants of William D. Coleman also created a foundation aimed at rebuilding the nation that gave them liberty.
You know, life is better here, you know, than it is over there. We got to continue to work, though, and remember, you know, who we are, why we came, where we came from, and do what we can to help the situation over there.
An important part of history. Inez de la Gutera, thank you.
Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this channel, and please leave a comment below. Okay, so that video that you just watched, very good. However, we're going to dive a little deeper into how it was started, what the ACS was created for, and what happened during that time. So, the American Colonization Society, founded in 1816, was created to send free black people from the United States to West Africa. That's how we know it so far. But the motives behind it were a bit shaky, a little messy, let's just say. Like, some white elites wanted to solve racial tension by removing free black people from America. They felt that, you know, it's going to interfere with their purchased slaves and also their economy. Then you had some abolitionists who thought that black people would never be treated fairly in America. So they supported the idea. And then you had some black Americans who supported it, but a lot of blacks rejected the idea. But you had quite a few that supported it. So already we see the complexity, okay? You see the cracks in the myth that one group is always noble and the other always oppressive. Okay, so when, I guess it was about maybe, I'm not sure how many blacks traveled to Liberia, but when they arrived in Liberia, the mirror moment began. What do I mean by that? So when the settlers arrived in West Africa, they didn't blend in. They didn't join the local tribes. They didn't build a society based on equality. Now, mind you, these were black Americans who arrived in Liberia. What they actually built was a hierarchy. So what were they called? Americo Liberians. Americo Liberians. These black people that came from America became the ruling class. They controlled the land, the politics, and trade. They created, they formed like a caste system, where the indigenous people were at the bottom and they were at the top. And they basically created somewhat of slavery in Liberia. These were free blacks that left America and came to Liberia. So let that sink in for a minute, okay? So the people who have been oppressed in America arrived in Africa and immediately recreated the same structures of dominance they had suffered under. Not because they were evil, not because they were white, because they weren't, but because they were human. Please let that sink in. And for those that's gonna say, oh, that's because they're used to slavery. No, please remember, they left because they did not, they felt oppressed and did not support slavery. Yet when they got to Liberia, they did the same thing that they left America for. And most of the policies and declarations that were created in Liberia mirrored, whereby I got that sentence, mirrored the American policies. So when I see black people today talking about being oppressed and, the wealth and everything like that, no, blacks can create wealth. As I stated before, the first female millionaire in America was a black woman, and she was the first female millionaire. Okay, so it's not that we're oppressed. We just don't know how to band together. We were more unified during Jim Crow. Today, forget it. If I see one climbing up the ladder, I gotta make sure I get a rope and bring him back down, him or her back down, because if they're gonna succeed, I need a little piece of the pie. You know that we like that capitalist ideology. It's really crazy, but yeah, that's something that I hope that a lot of you would think about. That this power structure that most blacks feel are controlled by whites, that's not the case. This is human reaction. This is human behavior. Black people seek power just like white people, just like that. It's just the name of the game.
White people took black people's power away.
You could never convince me otherwise. They took our magic and gave us Christianity.
I'll do you one even better. They didn't take our power. They created a system to keep us distracted from tapping into our power. Because if we all understood the power that we really possess with free will, then there would be no more system. It will crumble. You're okay with having to pay for basic necessities like food, water, shelter. You're okay with the system as long as you're comfortable within that hierarchy. We're arguing over stolen land of who can be here and who can't, but why?
What the fuck is this? We's was super niggas using magical nigga trait until the white man came and contained us. Why do I have to pay for food necessities? Because the alternative is someone hits you over the head with a club and they take that shit from you. And this isn't stolen land, it was conquered, and you benefit from that. Black people don't have power for a reason. We don't know how to run shit. We don't know how to build shit. We don't know how to grow and expand on the things that we have. We're dependent on other people for shit, just like this fucking bonnet philosopher and her nigga grand wizard in the first video. Niggas would rather sit back and cry and complain about what they don't have instead of trying to build something for themselves and escape the fucking rat race that they're in. And the sad part, these two nigga bitches can have children, so the children can be just as retarded as they are.
Yeah, I too didn't know what that girl was talking about. She was making no sense. But let's get down to the hard truth, okay? Let's cut through all the crap and let's get to the hard truth. Because this is the part that people don't like to talk about. Okay, Liberia shows us that oppression isn't just something done to us. It's something we are capable of doing to others the moment we get the chance. And that's what Liberia shows us. Power doesn't change character, it reveals it, all right? And when the Americo Liberians got power, they acted like the people who had the power over them. They left America because of what they're now doing. They complained about it, and then they get to Liberia and do the same thing. They build a political elite. They enforce cultural superiority. They dominated indigenous groups. They created a society with insiders and outsiders. And so that's not white problem. That's not black problem. That's a human problem. And so we go ahead and let's close this up and let me bring it on home. Let's look at today. We act like injustice only flows in one direction. We act like only one group can be the villain. We act like only one group can abuse power. When people get power, anybody, any one person, any group, they can become the very thing they claim to hate. Look at Congress. The same people that sit down and scream about the rich is getting richer, the rich are getting richer, those same people are getting richer. Okay? And so today in America, we see the same pattern. People who preach equality but silence anyone who disagrees. People who claim to fight oppression but use shame and censorship as weapons. People who say speak truth to power but only if the truth fits their politics or their narratives. Black, white, liberal, conservatives, nobody is immune. Okay? So my point, Liberia forces us to confront a truth we avoid. Victimhood doesn't make you virtuous. Oppression doesn't make you righteous. And power doesn't discriminate. Anyone can abuse it. If we want a better society, we have to stop pretending that morality is tied to race or identity. It's tied to choices. It's tied to character. It's tied to what you do when you finally get the power you say you deserve. And in closing, Liberia isn't just a story about the past. It's a warning about the present, because if we don't learn from it, we'll repeat it just like they did. And so, yeah, that's my story. That's what I wanted to talk about. And these are my perspective, but it rings to light because look at us today. And I don't care what anybody say. The blacks that you see saying white superiority, these blacks want to be in a powerful position. We all do. We all want to lead. We all want to manage. We all want to govern. It's just the name of the game. That tells you that we are human. This has nothing to do with race, because we see people get into power. Look at Illinois, Chicago. We see them get into power. And what do? They enrich themselves. They get on fancy trips. They do all this stuff. Look at, what's her name? Fonnie Willis. Get into power and enrich herself. Taking fancy trips. Stashing money so they could go here and go there. That's the truth. And you can call it what you want, but that is the truth. And on that note, you guys have a great evening. I will be back with another video, and thank you for listening to me. Please remember, like, subscribe, share this channel, and leave a comment below. Also, click the notification so that